All right, we're working again with Frankie and Cocco. Frankie is the owner. Cocco is an 8-month-old female Labradoodle who is currently working with their owner on recall and jumping on people when they approach or come to the house. It's a very rainy day today, so we're confined to working on an indoor basis only, and we'll go ahead and get into it. All right, here we are with, again, Frankie the owner and Cocco the 8-month-old Labradoodle puppy here. We're working on a little bit of touch. And our owner, Frankie, has quite a variety of treats in her bag today. What we're going to see is that our dog, our learner, is not necessarily super excited about all the different treats. So let's take a look and focus our attention here on Frankie, again the owner. I'm going to ask for a touch. Okay, we've got pretty good timing there. And now we've asked to go to a sit. So we haven't yet given Cocco a treat. And we'll talk about this in just a second, but we want to make sure that for every click, we're giving a treat. Every click, we're giving a treat. We ask for another touch here, followed by a click and a sit with a stay. And also a look at me with a offered shake, followed by the click.
So let me stop you with one area.
And here we are going to go ahead and stop Frankie and kind of give her a little bit of a breakdown. And we want to remind Frankie that for every click, we're giving a treat. Every click, we're giving a treat. We're on a fixed rate of reinforcement here, meaning that every click right now is equivalent to a treat in the dog's mind. With an 8-month-old puppy in particular, we're focused on really creating predictable patterns of reinforcement, and for this dog who's still learning quite a bit, the acquisition, the skill acquisition really needs to be reinforced at an early stage here. We are talking about the idea that the clicker is actually terminal signal, so we're not using this as a keep going signal. Okay, Frankie's back to asking for a touch. We've got really good timing here. We offer treat to mouth, followed up with the sit. Okay, good click.
Oh, we got a hungry learner.
Okay, so we've got a hungry learner, didn't eat breakfast. Want to have a dog that's motivated and incentivized to work. Asking for another touch with the hand pulling away, adding to the criteria. Probably would have kept my hand stationary and asked for a secondary click right after that. Okay, we need to find the treat. And again, it's important to kind of make note here that our learner, our dog, is the one that's ultimately going to tell us what they're willing to work for. So if we have a kibble or a piece of treat reinforcement that isn't interesting to the dog, really doesn't mean much for our training. Really need to have a motivated learner, and they're going to tell us exactly what it is that they are willing to work for. So looking back at Frankie here, continuing some good touch, click, and treats. We are breaking our treats apart during our training session. So one way that we could potentially help speed up the rate of reinforcement there would be to prepare our treats ahead of time in bite-sized pieces. As small as we can get them is really going to be the best. Our rate of reinforcement is something that we'll really want to focus on, and the faster and more repetitions that we can get in a shorter period of time, the better our learner, our dog, is going to come to acquire the new skill. Okay, so Frankie's doing a great job with timing,
Right on the moment there.
clicking right on the money.
And then follow up to the chain behaviors.
So now we're going to talk about chain behaviors, and if we want to continue back-to-back cues and different behaviors, we're just going to omit the click. So where Frankie was clicking after every behavior, we're just going to give the secondary cue or the tertiary cue and continue that chain by cueing the dog to the next behavior where we previously would have clicked.
You say the next cue. So let's put that into practice for a minute.
So let's see what that looks like here in practice.
A touch sit. So ask her for
I'm going to
a
do a
touch,
two-part
and then
chain here.
after the touch.
Okay, so the first is a touch. There's one, followed by the sit
There it is.
with the
That's a
click at the
two-part
final.
chain.
So sit, actually touch, sit, click, treat. Touch, sit, down. Okay, that's a 3-part. I saw a little flare there by our 8-month-old Labradoodle. And again, maybe our treats are not super exciting. That seems to be a piece of kibble. From an observational perspective, we'd probably want to take this into account for our subsequent training sessions. That kibble is not going to be something that is ultimately very enthusiastic or exciting for our dog. Okay, we've asked for a touch, sit, and a down. Seems to be confused slightly with a shake, so we could clean that up and use our clicker for a little bit of precision work. Otherwise, a great job by Frankie here in adapting to a chain and cleaning up our clicker mechanics.
She's doing good. I mean, she's very engaged. She's performing everything.
We're taking note here that our dog Cocco is also doing a really good job. She's enthusiastic. She's into the game. She's having fun. She's offering different behaviors and doing a little bit of Rolodexing, if we could consider that in certain instances. But overall, a pretty good relationship between the two of these. And so what we're finding out here is that in the house, all the behaviors are really good. Once we're out of the house, the behaviors fall apart. And again, unfortunate that the day today for training was very wet and rainy, so we weren't able to go outside. But if we are failing with the distractions outside, and once we go outside, of course, that is exactly what's happening, is that we're introducing new distractions and testing our environment. But if our behaviors are really good inside in the house without distractions of the outside environment, then and they fall apart outside, then we need to take note that we should be focusing more on improving our training on the inside. We could also introduce in the next sessions a couple of false distractions or artificial distractions, such as a squeaky toy or added movement by one or both of us. What I'm trying to do here while I'm talking to Frankie is maintain a little bit of engagement with our dog Cocco, asking for some touches and trying to keep her engaged there. So here comes a touch, just keeping her engaged. You can see the tails wagging. We really want to just make sure that our dog is kind of sticking with us in these downtimes. Okay, so what Frankie has told me is that while we're outside, if the dog stays in the backyard and we need to go leash the dog up, get him inside the house, we're having a hard time getting her to come back. But stay as a behavior is pretty well generalized, and she's doing that outside. Even in motion, she'll stop and kind of respond to the stay command. So what we're going to do here is work on getting our dog Cocco into a stationary position, stationing up on the couch, which the owner was okay with. Giving a release cue of okay, up, okay, and building in a little bit of duration with the stay up on the couch there.
I gave you an extra big piece there.
So we're just kind of working with what we've got. She's told us that stay is a good behavior. And I've got a little plan here on what to do once we reinforce some of the stay and the okay. Okay, so we're clicking and treating for going up. And typically the okay is sufficient as both a cue and a reinforcement that it wouldn't necessarily even warrant or need a click and a treat. But let's go ahead and break it down into smaller pieces and make sure that we're clicking and treating for the okay and keeping Cocco engaged. Frankie's going to jump in here. It's her turn to do a little up and okay training.
Nope, we're working with Mama now.
But sometimes when we transfer between trainers, we need to kind of assist the dog to help them understand that, okay, now it's time to work with Mom.
Just as I had done there. Okay. Good girl. And if you want, you can actually keep the hand down just so, once we move backwards. You're not going to have that.
So what we're seeing here is that Frankie is asking for kind of an okay plus a touch. I'm going to suggest that we remove the touch aspect of the okay cue and just practice up and okay. Okay, we've added the stay here.
The okay cue.
And okay. So we're getting a good response here from Cocco. What I'm going to want Frankie to do, though, is to really kind of focus on the vocal inflection and intonation of her voice. The okay cue really should have a lot more enthusiasm and kind of a persuasive tone to it with the dog. So we'll kind of work on that a little bit here and see if we can add a little bit of upward inflection.
Good. So I'm going to suggest rather than having the touch as the finale, no hand touch. Or I'm sorry, no hand at all.
Oh, okay.
Just okay. And
So we're doing a really good job here.
'cause once you
Frankie
move
and
back
Cocco are working well
further, she won't have
together.
that target to hit.
We see
Okay, so you
exactly
do,
what we're looking for.
Click for her going up, which is good because you didn't ask for it. So
Okay, so we saw an uncued up. We ignored it. That was good.
Good girl. Okay.
So our okay really should
and why don't we
sound a little more like an
why don't we
okay.
reduce things slightly, so
Really kind of hang on that upward
keep the
inflection,
angle. Let's see. Yeah.
keeping the
We can
tone
use-
super light and
suggest
positive.
doing a click when
Okay.
she goes up, but with
Or even
the
better,
if
okay.
you have moving backwards, then we won't be able to actually move forward to give her the treat. So we'll keep going with it as it is.
Okay.
So we saw a little, again, more downward inflection on our okay.
Good girl.
We don't get quite the response that we want from our dog, so again, I'm going to emphasize an okay with much more of an upward inflection.
Oh, yeah, it's one of the ones I don't like, Mom.
You goofers.
That's one of the ones I don't like. What was that? Is this another one? I think it's another one.
Is that a good one?
No.
Oh, no, not a good one for Cocco.
Okay, so what we're seeing here is that the dog is either fatiguing on the treats, or the treats that we have are not reinforcing for the dog.
Kind of clean this up for us. So we'll have her jump up. We'll introduce the stay, and then
We've got Frankie going back to get some of the more high-value treats, not the kibble.
Up, stay, okay with a big.
We're about 12 minutes into our training right now, and want to keep a, just a general sense of what kind of timing we're on in terms of fatiguing the dog, giving the dog a break, whatnot.
Hey.
Okay, that was really nice. Okay.
Good girl.
We had to give it again.
Okay, we've got a good paradigm there, so let's run it back a few times.
This concept of behavioral momentum, or
Value stuff now.
kind of getting this idea of really connecting with the dog.
You want to
We're going to start to see that a little bit here with Frankie and Cocco. Once you start to get into a rhythm, that is also why rate of reinforcement, I think, is so important, because
There's a munchy
the
girl.
faster and more that we're participating in this game with our dog, the better flow that we're going to get. Okay, this is a really nice stay and a really nice okay.
Perfect. That was excellent, Frankie.
So that was probably our best one there. That was a really good one.
We'll run it back again. That was a good one.
Okay, up.
Good.
Stay.
Got a good up, right into the stay, no clicker treats.
Okay.
And again, another really nice okay.
Let's add, what we'll have you do on this next one is do the same thing, but after she's in the stay, take one step back.
Okay, so we're going to add a little
Okay,
distance
release.
here.
Stay.
One step.
And distance can be considered a distraction as well. And something here kind of fell apart. We didn't get quite the response that we wanted.
Okay, and if you need to walk her back, go ahead and walk her back just a little bit to get her into the up position, and then we'll have you take 2 steps back.
Up. Stay.
2 steps.
Adding a little more distance.
Okay.
Very good.
And that looked nice.
Now you're learning. Look at what a good girl you are.
Let's keep this up until you get to the counter,
Okay.
and then we'll take a quick break, and then we'll introduce COME to the whole routine.
Stay.
Okay, Cocco's continuing to do a good job here. We're going to add even more distance with the goal of getting to the island counter.
Okay. Okay.
Give her a second just to work it through.
Okay, so we saw a little delay there.
Enthusiastic release, but she's doing okay.
What we'll want to focus on for Frankie there is, again,
Stay.
either a louder or more inflective okay.
Okay.
And that was pretty good.
Nice job, guys.
Okay. And again, the clicker can be used to increase the speed of a behavior. And so in order to do that, or to apply the clicker for the use of speed, what we do is click sooner, as soon as the dog is coming off the couch. If we were having trouble recalling the dog, we would wait till the dog came even closer. But again, speed here, so right there would have been a click. Let's keep an eye on that as we try this one more time.
It is coming down right now.
Stay.
Okay, so we'll keep an eye for when we would want to click to increase the speed of the behavior.
Okay.
Now,
Girl.
Nice job, guys. Give her one to the mouth and maybe one to the floor to kind of.
Okay, so we're gonna end here. She's hit the counter, which is our goal, the island. So we're gonna give Cocco a little treat scatter, signify to Cocco that we're taking a little bit of a break.
So we'll layer that on.
So again, one of our big goals here is working on come when called. And this looks like a very good behavior. We have an up, a stay, and an okay release. So we're going to use our skill of capturing, and we're going to capture a come as the dog is already being released with their okay.
Perfect.
And so the mistake that we saw there was that we said, okay, come, and the dog was not yet, in fact, coming. So in order to improve that, what we'd want to do, again, because we're capturing a behavior that's already happening, is to say, come in the middle of the dog's return back to us. Okay, not come. Come.
Good.
So one thing that Frankie could be doing to increase the rate of reinforcement here would be to walk Cocco back to the couch and do that almost immediately after. So we're going to look for the come again. She's already said it. That's too late. Or, I'm sorry, it's too early. Okay, and this now should signal that our game is over. The session has ended. The dog has lost focus. We're distracted. And so let's just go ahead and put our hand away. And let's not even ask for that at this point. Let's just go ahead and take that as enough of a signal. But because we've kind of done this, we're going to kind of walk through the mechanics of what's called a rescue recall. So we're going to act and ask as if the dog is actually responding to our come. We just grabbed Cocco by the collar, brought her back, clicked and treated as she came back.
So let's take a quick break and just kind of diagnose that, since we had a bit of a break apart there. So in a rescue recall, in an ideal situation, we'll have a long line on her, something that she can run around in the backyard with.
So in addition to capturing and shaping, our other behavior management tools include management. And if we're outside, you know, if we don't have good recall with our dog, we shouldn't be taking our dog outside and taking them off leash. If that's in the backyard or particularly in the front yard. But even in the backyard, we might not necessarily want to let our dog go in the backyard to go to the bathroom, go potty, without a long line. And particularly if we are also using come, and that's not being reinforced according to what we know and want a good recall to look like.
Okay, so knowing that now we are...
so take a look here. Cocco's attention is on me. She's near me. Our probability...
So we'll want to use
Our probability there was very low to ask the dog to engage in a behavior with us. We missed that opportunity just to click for her kind of coming back towards Frankie. So we might look for another opportunity, again, uninitiated, no verbal or nonverbal communication, just if the dog's coming back. Go ahead and click.
Perfect.
Okay, so we just transfer the dog over.
You don't even like my treats, young lady.
Again, we've got a little distraction. Our probability of working with the dog right now in a learning acquisition mindset is very low. We need to get her back into the game.
What's that all about, silly?
Treats are slowly degrading and becoming less of a reinforcement, so we should keep that in mind and take that into account. And that one also is not of interest or reinforcement. We're offering a third type of treat. We've got a whole bunch of different types of treats in there apparently. And we have something that she likes. Okay, so let's keep with that. Try and get back into the game again.
Let's see if we can get her back into the game. I think that was a good exercise. Piece of feedback for you. One thing that might improve our release with the okay is an added upward inflection.
So again, we're going to talk about that upward inflection.
And then
these are some of the soft skills that I think people can work on in terms of, you know, we've got the mechanics of things, clicking at the right time, making sure that we're, you know, waiting for the dog to finish chewing their treat before we cue the next behavior. But vocal inflection and tonality is definitely one of the soft skills that I think can often go overlooked. So I'm going to move over by Frankie if I can. Okay, and we're getting into playful mode. So we're pushing this a little too far. Frankie, I think, I'm sorry, Cocco has lost a little bit of interest and she wants to do something different.
Yeah, let's take a quick break.
This is actually good behavior that we maybe didn't know at the time, but this is the behavior that we resort to, that Cocco resorts to when we're outside and we want to recall her. She becomes very playful and wants to play keep away, so getting her into the state of mind actually could be very beneficial to attempting to work with her when she gets into this mode to try and down-regulate.
There's a good girl. So why don't we let's put a pin in this one for just a minute, and
So we really need to stop this one and not keep pushing this.
either name recognition or uninitiated eye contact, and just let her know that we're still playing a game. It's just not the game that she thinks we're playing.
Hey, Cocco.
Click treat.
Okay, so again, bars on the ground. We just need to get the dog back into the game, so a click and a treat.
Okay, let's do like 5 or 10
And then let's
more.
take some feedback. What's the dog doing after they eat the treat? Do they want another treat? If they do,
Focus her.
we know we've got a dog that's willing to learn and excited to engage with the game again.
Good girl.
There it is.
Oh, you left that on, right on your couch. You need to take that one.
You're not even taking it.
Okay, so
Do we need a quick play break?
let's try something different here.
What's this right there?
Our hierarchy of reinforcement typically goes with treats being the number one, treats and food. Typically, some dogs, their number 2 is going to be a toy, and then more commonly, physical praise is number 3 with vocal praise is number 4. So let's just do an experiment here and see if using a toy can actually become more reinforcing than the current menu of treats.
But instead of giving her a treat with a click, we'll do click and see if we can give her a little toy time.
Gonna run a little experiment here.
Come on up. Good girl.
Stay. Hey,
I'm
Cocco.
going to follow with you.
Okay, so I need to get next to Frankie so that we're not splitting attention here.
Okay. Come on.
Okay!
Good girl. Look, Cocco.
Oh, get it.
So let's see, how enticing is the toy instead of a treat here?
Get it, buddy.
Adding a little bit of vocal inflection and some excitement with my voice.
Okay.
And again, it's not just play, it's here to reinforce. The toy is attempting to reinforce and not necessarily turning it into a full-blown play session. So we've put the toy away. We're asking her to go back to the ups. And 22 minutes into our total training session here, I think we're probably going to want to just put a pin in this exercise. So Frankie is now asking for eye contact.
Close enough.
Let's take a look and see exactly what that looks like.
Oh, you don't like those now either? Oh, you are like, okay. Stay. Hey, Cocco, stay. Hey. Okay, come on.
So it looks like maybe a little bit of exasperation on Frankie's part in terms of not knowing exactly what to do. We see that Cocco shakes her head. That could be a potential sign of, kind of a stress relief, shake off.
Just a natural part of working with a younger dog.
But we also presented the toy as a bit of a lure,
Personally,
somewhat of a bribe, if you will, rather than a reinforcement after Cocco had performed the behavior and responded to the
if we
cue.
were to continue pushing on the training at this
So to
exact
clean
same
that up,
time,
if the toy is something that is in fact of value and a reinforcement, then we would, obscure it from vision until the dog's performed it, done our click, and then presented the toy finally, as we would with the treat.
when learning acquisition degrades, essentially.
But this is also a good break for Cocco, who seems to, need a little bit of a mental distraction.
And if the aim is to have really good training and make sure that we're, acquiring the learning
Hey, Cocco.
efficiently,
Cocco, look at me.
So we're going to go back to look at me.
Cocco. Well,
She's trying to get eyes.
Cocco.
She's not getting what she's looking for. Cocco sniffs, which is a social sneeze, could be frustration. So what we're learning in this little instance here is that potentially Frankie's criteria is higher than what Cocco is giving us. And there might be a split second of eye contact where Cocco has actually looked at us and we did not click and treat it, and therefore, we're not sure what Cocco's not sure what we're looking for here.
Step this big, and if that's not reinforced or marked, then she's not able.
Our alternative option here would be to uninitiate or initiate the behavior only when we see it. So going back to our capturing skill, we could just sit in silence, be patient, wait for the eye contact to cross ours, click and treat, wait for it again, click and treat, and then build off of that.
And what would that look like?
Again, behavioral momentum can kind of pick up from there. So rather than asking for it, we could just wait for it. And I may see a few opportunities. There it is. That's a good one.
So they're very fleeting. And if we can just acknowledge the faintest glance of eye contact, right? Then we can kind of build off that and progress to a longer hold. But it also, you'd mentioned previously that you had like a visual cue also for her,
Right.
and you're not using that now. And I'm just curious if.
So one thing that we know from what Frankie's told me is that she believes that Cocco is stubborn.
Right.
And this may be a prime example in terms of where we might derive that perspective that our dog is stubborn. But in fact, it may be, the reality of the situation may be that the dog just isn't in clear communication with us.
You have to click it real fast. And then again, when it happens, and you're like, wait, what am I?
Right.
I'm doing something? And you're like, yeah.
I think a lot of times we try and attribute or project particular personalities and quirks onto a dog that may or may not be validated or warranted.
That was a really small one.
Very small, but that's about all we're getting from her.
So things have really slowed down, and I think that's okay for where we are right now.
Okay, can you stay? Okay. Come. Let's go.
So we've got a couple different added elements to our cue. We're slapping our leg, we're waving our hands. Those are behaviors that our dog is going to pick up on that may confuse them. Is it the vocal cue? Is it the okay? Is it the body language? Is it the leg slap? These are all things that can add noise to our cue that we want to be aware of. And a lot of times it's really easy to become unconscious of these added behaviors that we put onto our cue unknowingly.
And maybe she was stubborn, but I think an equally likely attribution here would just be that she's fatigued on this.
So yeah, we're just fatigued with our exercise right now. We need to take a break with Cocco.
Accept the reality as it is and see if we can move on to another thing. We know that treats are off the table significantly. She's not really taking mine. You've got a smorgasbord of options here, which don't seem to be delighting her too much. So that's working against us. But we also have to accept the fact that that's what it is, unless we have something else.
Our observational skills are definitely an important component of good dog training. And if we see, that our dog isn't interested in treats, and we see that our dog is getting distracted, these are all small pieces of information that can feed into a larger understanding of where we are with our training. So we're going to move on to something different here in just a minute.
When she's outside and you have to leash her up, that can often cause a lot of problems that lead to keep away and chase. So one thing that I always do when I am starting the walk, because the dog is excited and they need to do something in order to get the walk initiated, is a leash up routine. So it's usually hand out.
We're going to move into a leash up routine.
Come to the hand, at which point then I'm able to grab the collar, and then I announce leash up, and I leash them to the leash.
Okay, come on, let's go. Wanna go for a walk?
So we're going to get started here on leash up.
Just come to her.
The reason that we'd like to do leash up because when we need to get the dog leashed up after they've been off leash, we want them to have a positive association with what leash up means. And if leash up is only something that's done at the end of a fun time, why would the dog want to necessarily come and leash up? So we leash up before we go out. We leash up before we're off leash. And having that positive association, I think, does us a good benefit on the backside of things.
Well, what I actually label it as
Again,
roundup.
it's a very rainy day. We're not able to go outside, so we're kind of doing the best that we can inside the house.
Dogs, that's a roundup. Good girl.
And on the flip side of leash up is round up, and round up is a phrase that I use when it's time to let the dog off leash. It's ultimately signifying that I need a sit and attention before they can be let off leash.
Let's take a quick walk.
We've got a lot of incentivization before we let a dog off leash, so asking for that behavior is something that's very easy to get some good compliance early on. I'm just going to walk around the island kitchen here,
Roundup.
and we're going to work on our round up.
Roundup, sit.
It's going to be off leash.
Girl.
Okay, we see this shake behavior from the dog quite often, so we know that that's going to be a strong one that we could use ultimately when we kind of touch on the Premack Principle, using the dog, or using something that we know the dog likes or is very good at in order to get another behavior. The dog's off leash. We're just going to work on a little bit of closed-handed touches.
We'll do leash up, sit. Uh-oh, what are you doing? You not eating your treats? There's a good girl, huh?
Okay, Cocco.
Time for leash up.
Leash up.
Okay, we've got a leash up again. We announce it, and then we leash the dog up.
Girl. Okay, let's go for a walk this
Let's
way.
take a walk. And while you're walking, if you'd like to throw in a few
So again,
touches,
as I had done, I'm suggesting that maybe Frankie could be doing some closed-handed touches while we're walking along. Loose leash walking is not necessarily a high goal of Frankie's at this time, so at this point, it's not, crucial to what we're working on.
Let's try something else. Hey, Cocco. Girl.
But one of the big problems that Frankie's having is that anytime that Cocco is off leash, she can't get her back on. So working on the leash up routine hopefully can help, while we're confined to our inside training space today.
Touch.
okay, open-handed touch, good.
Good. Good girl. We have here.
Let's have her do a round-up sit, so we'll kind of practice as if we were letting her off leash.
Good girl. Good girl.
Okay, come on. And then we let her free, kind of mimicking that we have some off-leash time. Good girl. There's a buddy. How are you? Huh? Come on.
Okay, so let's get the dog excited. We know that we're at 33 minutes now. So we're battling fatigue with this young dog. So adding a little bit of excitement to the training, I think, is going to kind of help us out in terms of getting the dog engaged, excited, and willing to participate in our training session.
Find it. Right here.
Gotta find it.
Okay, let's go. Okay,
All right, let's get it going here.
come on here.
Okay.
So now it's time to leash up again.
Leash up.
And I'm going to suggest to Frankie that we do this leash up routine every time that we head out for a walk, whether it's for a leashed walk in the neighborhood, going out the front door, if it's going to be out at the parks or on the trails. Leash up,
Gotta find it.
leash the dog up, and then before we let the dog off leash, or if we're letting the dog off leash,
There's a
we need to ensure that we are also practicing our roundup, which is the sit before their leash comes off. Okay, while we're on leash, let's make sure we're engaging our dog. Touch is our easiest and best way to do that.
treat first.
Okay, we've got a round up. And with round up, no click, no treat. Being off leash is the reward, that's the reinforcement. And of course, because we're not outside, we're just in the inside environment, which she knows very well. Let's add a little bit of excitement and energy and playfulness to the game. Running around, giving her the sense that being off leash is one of the best things that she can have.
We may need to just go down the hierarchy here to physical praise.
Again, we're laying on physical praise. This is a very sweet and affectionate dog, 8-month-old puppy. So physical praise, I think, is going to go a long way in terms of substituting for what otherwise was a lack of enthusiasm for our treats.
Can we go down? Very
Okay,
good.
again, we're working on jumping up, so
Touch. Very good girl. There you go.
instead of using treats, because treats are deemed uninteresting to this dog at this point, physical praise was my go-to option there. Let's get it going. Let's have some fun. Adding a little bit of capturing of the come call
What a good
cue there.
girl she is, huh? That's a good girl. Let's come over here for touch.
So recall really can be reinforced with strong physical praise.
Stay. Up. Sit.
Okay, went too far on the stay. We also don't have a stationing platform like we did with the couch.
Oh, that's our buddy right there.
So we're just kind of demonstrating and running through
Touch.
some of the things that we've worked on with Frankie. Here's our 2-part chain. touch,
Stay.
sit, stay, 3-part chain,
Come.
with a come,
Coco.
4-part chain, physical praise,
Buddy. There's sweet potatoes, huh? Wow.
vocal praise,
Coco. Hop.
getting some movement. Let's keep it going. Back to something that we'd worked on, that we'd known, that was fatigued.
On the pillow. Sit. Stay.
Up, sit, stay.
Okay. Come.
Okay. Really adding that vocal inflection.
Coco. Very good job.
Physical praise as a reinforcement here.
Buddy. Let's go. Come on. Over here.
Jumping up. We're not focused on that, so I'm going to let that slide. Up.
Good. Sit. Stay.
See if you can spot any sort of enthusiasm changes in the dog.
There we go. That's cocoa bananas, huh? Cocoa bananas.
Physical and vocal praise, just
Good girl. Let's go.
keeping that on.
Coco.
Fast body movements if you can.
Coco, hop. Come on. Hop. Sit.
Timing here.
Or stay.
She says stay, I say wait. A little bit of vocal confusion, verbal confusion there. Adding a little bit more distance, obscuring myself behind the kitchen with the pots and pans hanging.
Girl, Coco.
There it is, working on a little bit of recall.
Happy girl right there, huh? What a buddy.
Overwhelming physical and verbal praise. Come is such an important cue that we really want to lather on that praise, make sure it's something that's reinforced. And again, treats were not, so let's go ahead and lean into what we can.
Coco, sit.
Wait, 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 don't say it again. Okay, we've lost her, so saying it again would not have necessarily done anything. She's thirsty, so we've got a biological need here that needs to be taken care of. Totally fine.
So yeah, you know,
Remembering
treats fall
in
off the menu,
clicker training,
we know
it's
that
not a
physical
command. I'm
praise
not,
for her
you
is
know,
pretty
there's no
significantly
threat of
reinforced
reprisal for not
reinforcement
following
ability.
through. It's an opportunity for the
So
dog to
just,
do
you know,
something, and that's why we
overly
call it a
enthusiastic
cue.
butt scratches and
So I
having
had cued a
baby
particular
voice
sit,
and
and
pet, pet,
thirst
pet.
was a
I think
competing
we're
biological
doing
need
pretty
here,
well
so
here.
that took precedence over, you know, physical praise,
And
which
just,
is what it
you know,
essentially was
raising
on
the
offer.
energy level to give her the enthusiasm that we're having fun, and
All those treats made you thirsty, huh?
that's right.
Okay, let's see where she's going, what we're interested in. Right back to it. And
Stay.
there we get the sit. I had some distance here. She's doing good. She's stationed on a platform, the couch. Further obscuring
Hey, come. Very good job, Coco.
with the
Wow,
click.
what a good girl she is, huh?
Physical
What a good
praise.
buddy. Oh my goodness. Who did
Vocal
so
praise.
good? That was a big one, huh?
How fun is that, you
Let's
know?
go.
So what we could do is turn that into a game of hide and seek throughout the house, particularly on rainy days or throughout the rest of the winter.
Stay.
What we're going to do is we're going to turn the recall game into hide and seek game. We're going to go
Hey, come.
down the hallway, change it up,
There's
give
a
a new
good
context,
girl. Wow.
physical
What a
praise.
buddy,
Hey, she's
huh?
doing great.
Good job, good job.
Let's try that again. At some point here, we're going to go into the bathroom and use that as a visual
All the way
obscurity.
downstairs at some point if you want and play kind of hide and seek. Stay.
Sit, wait, stay. Back into the hallway. And
Stay.
into the bathroom.
Okay, come.
Let's see if she can find us.
There she
Boom.
is. It's
Clicking
Coco.
reward
Wow,
with some
what a
physical
good girl,
praise.
huh?
Camera acted up there. Sorry about that.
Sit. Coco, sit.
Wait it out. Don't say it again.
Can you sit?
Okay, took a third time. Use that as feedback that we're getting exhausted here, maybe fatigued.
Okay, come. Good job. There she is.
There it
Buddy
is.
Coco.
Okay, we like that.
Buddy Coco's in the house, huh?
Buddy Cocco, what a good girl.
That was a nice one. You want to catch? Oops. Can we find it? Find
Let's
it,
see if
find it,
treats are
find
back on the menu here.
it. There it is.
Throwing it to the ground, tossing it up in the air for her to catch. These are different ways that we can kind of add some excitement to our treats.
Good. Good.
Gotta find it. Drop it on the ground. Can they find it? There it is.
Good. Find it.
A little bit of motion. Creates a little bit of enticement.
Good girl. Find it.
And find it, find it, find it. Keep this game going. Just
Good. Find it.
probing and testing for enthusiasm for reinforcements here on
Good,
treats.
good. Coco, find it. Coco, find it. Over here. Come on. Yeah, it's a crunchy treat. Here's a soft one. You gotta find it. Ready? Find it. Cocco doesn't want to find it? Okay. Right here. Good girl. Okay, no treats for you then. Did you like that demonstration at least?
Okay, so our experiment there, just kind of getting a gauge of where we were at with treat enthusiasm, seems to have proved that treats are not that enthusiastic for her, and we don't want to continue pushing that.
Cocco, huh? That's a buddy girl that we know right there.
Phone's ringing, so while that's happening, let's keep Cocco engaged, keep her excited, give her some energy. What a good buddy.
That's my friend, Cocolonos. Cocolonos, huh? What's going on? That's a buddy. You having fun? Yeah, we like Cocco. She's doing great.
Little happy hands there, keeping her excited. Let's see where we're going. So Frankie's taking over here.
All together now.
Let's all get Cocco up onto the couch. And we're going to get Frankie to run and hide.
Telling you wherever you're going.
I'm going to follow Frankie wherever she's going. We're going to hide in the bathroom here.
Okay. Where's Cocco? Come on. Come on.
Come.
Okay.
Where's my girl?
There she is.
And a
Get her.
click.
Get that girl.
There we go. Love the playfulness here on Frankie's part. That's a lot of fun. Get her to come. Half the fun is coming to find mom. Whether or not we added a click or not a click there, I think is of minimal importance. That was a really good response from Frankie, and just giving a good time there. A little happy party for having our dog come and find us. Again, though, our objective here is to use our capturing tool of come, have the dog come run and hide, or we go hide and the dog runs and finds us, and making sure that we're tagging on that label of come, I think, is an important part to underscore there. To another part of the house. We've got her in a good stay. Okay. Good, like that. That's good. So, but for some reason, she has not come all the way in. So, it's become more of playfulness rather than physical affection. So, what we wanted to really do is reward the dog with physical affection rather than play, because what we really are trying to do is get the dog's compliance in terms of recalling to us. So, if we turn it into a full game of play, we actually lose the opportunity to recall our dogs if in fact we needed to leash them up because there was something dangerous. We didn't want them going out to the road, or we saw some sort of wildlife, etc. So recall using non-food reinforcements and using instead physical praise or vocal praise, I think, needs to really kind of have some sort of calming effect once the dog actually comes to us, in terms of bringing the dog in for a pet and having a little bit more physical control should the need arise. So we see Cocco comes running and sliding into a play bow. And what I'm going to try and demonstrate here is that what we really want to do is kind of get the dog in for a nice pet. So maybe just holding her hand out here like that can actually invite the dog in for a nice little pet. And then your physical praise can be a little bit more calming in terms of rubbing the dog's ear, or kind of bringing them in, moving to the butt, so we have a little bit more full body control. So while this is reinforcing for the dog, it's also reassuring to the owner, to the trainer here, that we can actually get our dog if the dog recalls. We need that. We know we need that component of our recall. So Cocco sees herself in the mirror to her left down the hallway. Just a side note there. We're going to follow Frankie, make sure that we're all staying together, no distractions. This is still kind of an early part of our recall training. Okay, so I click there. And for one reason or another, she doesn't quite want to come to Frankie for physical praise. She is still kind of in this play mode. So this is actually really good, because this is the real life behavior that Frankie is exasperated with and having trouble with when we're outside. If Cocco accidentally gets out of the front yard, which sometimes does happen, it's important for Frankie to need to be able to get control, in an otherwise unscripted scenario there. It was not her intention to let the dog out the front yard, but somehow it could happen. we need to be able to, replicate the most probable scenario that this would actually manifest in. And again, it's raining outside, so we're not outside to actually see this, nor would we necessarily want to, because the behavior is something that we're still working on, and we need to have that practiced in a good, safe, non-distracting environment. But this is exactly what we're seeing here, is that this behavior becomes problematic for the owner when, in fact, this is not the game that she's trying to play. She's not playing keep away or playing. So this is really where we need to kind of dive in and dig in to investigate how to change this behavior. What we could do, and Frankie says turning away and walking in the other direction, or, being otherwise, kind of playing the FOMO game, doesn't necessarily work for her. I don't know why she's necessarily Cocco is responding to my physical praise there and not to Frankie's, but that's kind of where we need to kind of lean in to understand a little bit more of.
Into that feisty mode, and then figure out on your own.
Playfulness is good, enthusiasm is good. What we really just want to focus on there is how to get a little bit more of a magnetization between the dog and the owner.
So that's actually a kernel of practice.
So
I think we can either
this kind of insight came at the very end. We'll kind of bookmark this behavior as something to come back to and try and figure out how to get her into that mode, get her into playful mode, and then how to very quickly down-regulate that mode and how to get the dog under better control.
Dismantle that behavior.
One thing that we might want to focus on is, when we get a really nice recall, building that into a come with a sit. That would be the ideal outcome, but that's not nearly where we are right now, so we can't expect that.
Because that scenario of behavior, what? That's
there it is.
good girl. And so one thing that I always use,
and if we can kind of snap that energy, with something incompatible to that, such as a sit, such as we know that she likes to throw shakes quite often enthusiastically, so maybe we try and use the Premack Principle to get a better shake. To get a shake and kind of snap the focus that we have on playfulness at that point. That could be something.
Coveted ball for a handful of treats. So maybe we have the scenario in place for you now where,
Cocco's getting crazy. Wow,
Whoa, whoa, whoa.
And then all of a sudden,
get a crazy dog.
Energy just gets vacuumed out of the room. Game over.
So,
and that's just
not a Cesar Millan fan at all, but, focusing on the energy here, I think is probably, kind of an energetic approach here is really kind of what we're trying to target and discuss. Getting her energetically into this state of mind of playfulness and having a good time, and then being able to turn our body and turn our energy on a dime to, straight, tall, not playful, and being able to turn the light switch on and off in terms of we're playing, we're having fun, and boom, we're not playing, this is very serious. I think is kind of an energetic focus that has obviously mechanical components to it, but I think generally is much more of a soft skill that like we've talked about previously.
Trying to reward with physical and vocal praise, and then if she gets into that crazy mode, either turn it up with
that's not necessarily something that here in this particular instance I as a trainer am able to give the mechanics of how to do that. I think it's a bit of an experimentation in the relationship between the owner and the dog, and being able to kind of understand in that relationship and in this context when the dog is in that particular state of play, how to relate to your dog in order to get them to downregulate and understand from an energetic perspective, no, this is not something that we're, going to continue doing. I need this particular type of behavior, and modeling it yourself as the human and seeing how that plays in with the dog. And maybe it doesn't necessarily work every time, but that's why we do this in the house, so that we're not actually facing potential failure in a scenario or in a context or an environment where the stakes actually mean something. So, all in all, I think this is probably something that warrants further review and further exploration on secondary sessions.
Yeah.
But it's also important to note that when you are kind of working with your dog in this particular scenario, that if you find something, so in this particular context, the dog comes to you and offers a play bow, but you are not giving into this, game, and instead you're trying to offer physical praise. If you can find what does work, notate that, stick with it, and make it consistent, repeatable, and predictable, so that every time that the dog comes and you have this playful energy, you can do this one thing, and it's something that the dog knows and puts into their own central nervous system that this is the response that I'm going to get. It's a response that I like, and you have a bit of an agreement or a pact between one another that, hey, when I run and hide and then I call your name or give the okay cue or say come and you come to me, expect, for example, a great ear scratch, the best ear scratch that you can have, like full on double ear scratch. The dog goes crazy for it, or maybe it's a butt scratch and the dog loves that butt scratch and it's a really enthusiastic butt scratch. But every time the dog comes, if it's physical praise, boom, they're going to get that butt scratch that they love so much.
And then getting her back into a learning mode if that's where you want to go from there. So I'll break this down. Hopefully we captured enough of the video today. But I'll break
So that's all for today's session. Appreciate anybody else tuning in. Hope that you guys find this valuable. For Frankie and Cocco, again, a great job. Frankie, I think, did an excellent job with her timing. I think Cocco is a very good and enthusiastic learner who put on a good show with, despite some of the fatigue and treat reinforcement and pickiness. But please leave a comment and let me know if there's anything else that you think would be good to provide in terms of the feedback. And we'll continue doing these. So thank you very much.
I appreciate a kiss from my friend Cocco. She's a good girl. What do you think? We all done for today?
I think I am.
Yeah, that's a lot of mental stimulation for a little girl like you, huh? And that's your scritchy scratchy spot right there. Oh, scritchy scratchies. Oh, scritchy scratchies for a little buddy. Yeah, there's Cocco. Thank you. A kiss. Oh, a boop boops. Wow, thank you, Cocco. A very good girl. Yeah, you get a nice pet, okay? Pets for Cocos. Yeah, she's a good girl. All right, that's all for today, little buddy. We'll see you again soon, huh? How do I smell? I took a shower before I came over. Hope I didn't offend you.
She's I'm getting a haircut this week, so I'm not kind of seeing it. I'm going to be all trim.